Okay, so I said I was doing this right out of the blue. There's some part of recording that I really strained me out in the previous sessions. I've tried to record this multiple times, to be honest, and I keep on getting a lot of interruptions. So I really am sorry also, by the way, if this comes later than usual. But we are here, we are back now, and we're ready to learn. So I'm going to come in here and delete this controller called blogs controller. And then I'm also going to show you a few things about how this is carried out. So check this out. This thing about the profile that you probably hadn't noticed that was changed between how it looked over here and how it looked in the previous video that we dealt with this profile controller. Reason being, if I come in here and did this and then came in here and just did a dot class like so, and then separated that and called the function index, the same route for profile will still work whatsoever. Like let's say if I log in as an administrator, well, let me just register with one of my normal accounts and passwords, because I hate refreshing this thing over and over again. So I'll do that. So I register and I'm logged in. Then so if I come in here and then click on home, okay, well, this is profile. You can see if I click on home, I'm going back here. If I come here and click on profile, I come to profile. It's still working, definitely still working. Now, the reason why I prefer it being done like this is because it just gives the old feel of Laravel in general. The way the old feel was is you just come in here and type the controller and then write the function afterwards, after the @ symbol, after the name of the controller itself. But with Laravel 8, I think you have to now define the namespace from the very beginning, so that you can actually get to the controller in the end, which is fine and dandy. That's one thing that you need to adjust. That's okay. If you're coming off the back of a previous version of Laravel, that's fine. Now, one thing I really want to talk about is these controllers. Actually, you see this return view welcome. This is a function that's been called within the routes for us to return this view called welcome, which is essentially this one. What if I decided I'm going to call no function here whatsoever? If I decided to return, maybe say hi. So what if that was the case? It will just return hi. That's fine. Yeah. If I wanted to come in here and return data that was in the blogs controller, so I just come return and say blog, or rather blogs database. I'll come in here and call the blog model, and then I'll say all. Fine and dandy. I will return all the blog data, which is non-existent really. If I came and did users like that, and I return all the users from the database, so you can see administrator is over here, and it would return it in a JSON string, as you guys can already see. If I was to do what, Control U, you can see it's in a JSON string, one singular JSON string extending so many lines of, so many spaces over here. Like you can see, I'm scrolling all the way till the edge for a very long time. But anyway, yeah, so this is a JSON string. It's an array of objects, basically. That's, yeah, an array of objects. So when you iterate through one object to another, each object will have this data till here, this kind of data. So they'll have an ID, a name, an email verified at, phone number, an is admin created at and updated at, and then the same will repeat for the other users, so on and so forth. So imagine we created all this data just by faking data for 20 minutes. So yeah, that's pretty much what you can do. What if I decided I'm not going to call this function and I'm going to call a controller itself? What I want to do is I want to call a controller called blogs controller. So essentially everything that is on the home page or everything that is like being controlled on the home page will be in the blogs controller. So I just want to say app slash http slash, let me just do that again, slash controllers, and then slash, I want to call the blogs controller, which has not been created yet, and then I want to call a function over here called index. Great. So this function over here called index does not exist. Rather, this blogs controller does not exist basically. So what do? We have to create it, yeah? Alright, so PHP artisan make controller, and then we go call it blogs controller. So there's very many ways we can create these controllers to make our work easier. Actually, we could have even done this and called resource, like dash dash resource, and we'll actually get into knowing what that does. You could have also called API, and we'll have known what that does later on. So let's leave the terminal for now and actually see what is inside this blogs controller. Absolutely nothing. So what do we want to do? Put something like a function maybe, and this function will be called index, just as we had described it. And what we want to do is call the same function that was being called in the previous time, which is return a view, and this view is called welcome, like so. So I'll just close it with a semicolon, save it, and let it work. I mean, it's that seamless. It is nothing different. There's nothing different about that and it having another function instead of us calling the controller over here. And we've named it welcome, which is great. But now, since that's fine and dandy, let's actually just do this. We want to enable something over here called a resource. And what essentially we mean by a resource is in Laravel, we have these functionalities for REST API that allow us to create, read, update, and delete resources. And that is called the CRUD. Basically, create, read, update, and delete, CRUD. So the way to create that without actually having to implement these functions of CG index and all those things, I'm just going to delete this and then run this command again. Let me just come back here. I don't know why it's not taking me to that function. Okay, so it just decided no. So PHP, I'm going to type in PHP artisan make controller. I'm going to call the blogs controller again. And notice the convention of naming is that with whatever model we're going to be dealing with here, we make it plural and then put it inside this name for the controller. Now, there's a resourceful files, which is dash dash resource. And the short form for that is I can do a dash, a single dash, and then put an R over here. They will both work the exact same way without a shadow of a doubt. So I'm going to do the dash R and then check this out. I'm going to open this and you can see some functions have been pre-created, which are supposed to be enabling us to, for index, create, store, show, edit, update, and destroy, which is fine, which is just perfectly fine. Okay, now inside here, if we did a return view and then I did welcome, it will still work the exact same way. So I'll just refresh this and perfect, it's working. Now inside my web, I only have a get request for this. But little did you know, guys, is that you can actually be able to use multiple those functions in one line of code, all of them, without fail. So the way you go about it really is, I'm just going to do a route, and by the way, I hate this linting, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import a class over here. So I'm going to say use auth, and it's supposed to come in from facades. So that's it. I'm just going to colon and let this linting go. So I'm going to do route, and then I'm going to do resource. So I'm just going to come in here and leave it blank like that, just a blank string like that, and then I'm going to do app/http/controllers, all of this till here, till the blogs controller, and then I just clean it up like that. Okay, so essentially if I just refreshed, it was going to still work. The reason why that is because if I did to check actually if the routes are working, I just do php artisan route list. Oops. So this is how you know it's working. If this table comes in here and gives you all of this, then it's all working. Now the name of this function is index. The name of this function that enabled us to open it is index. It's not welcome anymore. If we should how it was supposed to be previously, let me just actually come and show you how it was supposed to be previously. So I'm going to comment this out and then uncomment this and save it and then do the routes list again. So this is what happens. Yeah, this get method over here is called welcome. It goes and hits the index function, and it doesn't have any middleware that is required, so that's why it only has web there, which is okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But what if, yeah, what if we just wanted to use all functions without like actually naming them? Okay, let's actually do this. Let's actually name this blog. So if this was named blog, I'll do routes list, and then we'll have it called blog.index, blog.store, and even the URI will change. It will be /blog, like that. Meaning that this does not work anymore. I hope you're actually following, guys. I really do hope you're following. So the reason why it's not going to show is because now this has become the URI. It's become now a /blog. Yeah, so that's why I left it empty first, because I knew that if I left it empty, then it wouldn't have to go through that transition to using blog.index as the name and /blog as the URI. So if I did that again, this is how the URIs now look. If I did a / over here, there's a post method for store, and then there's a get method for index, which is fine, which is perfect, which is fine. Great. So what else do we really want to do with the controllers now that those routes are working? Well, I want to be able to have to authenticate, or rather have to log in to be able to use any part of the application. So what do I do? Well, there's something over here called a construct function. So the construct function usually appears like this. I'm going to do a double underscore, and then I'm going to do a construct, and then I'm going to do that and erase it, and I'm also going to erase this. So once this happens, I'm going to call, for this instance of the class, I'm going to call a middleware. The middleware I want to call is called auth. This essentially means that for any function that is within this class that is going to be called, this construct function has to be called first. So that's what construct functions are in essence. And if you guys would actually want to see this in action, then this is what's happening. I have to be logged in. If I log out, this is what happens. So now if I click on home, you can see this. This is the home page. If I click on home, I have to log in first to go to the home page. If I log in, it will take me to the home page. So you get the gist of how it actually works. Now on this home page, I could say that I really want to see the home page, but I don't want to log in. Maybe I can just do accept, which is the truth. I can actually do accept. So I'll say accept, and then I'll put in the string of the function that I don't want inside this middleware acceptancy, which is index. So I'll be able to log out, and I'm still at home. As you can see, it's not redirected me to login. So I'm still at home, but I can't go to profile, of course, or I can't store anything, any new blogs, because I'm not logged in. And so I'll also enable it that even the button that there is for going to that login page should only appear if someone is actually logged in. So I could actually enable that using the auth directive. Okay, so that part is done. So until the next ones, now we're going to talk about how we're going to show some forms for creating the resource. We're going to talk about how to store the blog data, and we're also going to talk about how to edit them, how to show them, how to update them, things like that. So until then, until the next video, guys, stay tuned. This is going to be a very intuitive class, going to be very interactive. Actually, wait, hold on. Did I say that I was going to spend an hour on this video? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So before I start on the serious coding, let's take a short break, guys, and let's meet in the next 5 minutes. Maybe go and take your 5-minute break. Until then, here's a message from the various, okay, we don't have sponsors, but here's just a short message for you guys. Yo, I'd like your attention for just 1 second. It's Steve, your number from TechChess. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video. You've actually met us halfway. You've actually met us halfway on this video, and I'd just like to point out a few things. First of all, there's this series I want to start up on social media. Essentially, it's gonna be called Ask a Kenyan Programmer. So whatever it is, whatever kind of questions that you want to throw towards me and towards anyone who is going to be in this space and is going to answer those we're actually going to answer those questions and give you proper insight to whatever it is that you're going to be asking. Secondly, if you guys are out of the craze, then, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to you something important. Well, so this is 5th of January 2021, and I want to show you something. So I'm going to type in here php-v, and you can see my PHP version is of version 8. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. PHP version 8 is out now. Go ahead and now update yourselves. Go and be familiar with the new features that are coming into PHP version 8. Update your servers, update all your applications and all those things that are working with PHP, and I'm sure you will not regret it. Now, with that being said, let's get on to part 2 of this video, this long ass video. Very well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so listen. We've already covered whatever we needed to cover about this index function. Whatever it's supposed to do, it's supposed to return a view called welcome. And as a matter of fact, I want to actually do something that is very, very important over here. There's something that I want to deal with that's called data. Basically, anything to do with data within this view called welcome, so that we can be able to access a certain amount of data. But actually, you know what, we'll do that a bit later. What we want to actually go over is the purpose of all these functions that are actually within this blogs controller. .php. I hope you understand that I'm coming here without any script, without any foregoing plan on how I'm supposed to deliver this, but I'm just delivering everything from the onset of how I know things should be covered step by step. All right, so let's talk about our create function. So as you can see over here, it's commented and saying that it shows the form for creating a new resource. So what does that mean? Well, it essentially means that we have to create a view over here that will contain the form that we'll have to fill in for creating our blog resource. So how do we go about that? Well, we come into the views. We're going to do something small, maybe create a new file, and we're going to call it blogs, maybe. So inside blogs, I'm going to create a new blade.php file. One is going to be our create.blade.php, and another one I'm going to call edit.blade.php. All right, so I'm not going to touch on those first. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to extend on both of them. I'm going to extend layouts.app. So for both of them, and this one as well. And then inside our section, I'm going to do section. So it's usually B section like that. And then I'm going to do content, because that's the section that we've been dealing with. And I'm just going to do a H1 of text center. And it's supposed to be hyphenated in between. So text center. And oops, so it's supposed to be H1. Sorry. So I'm just going to use the autocomplete like that, and then I'm just going to say this is your create form. All right, now I'm going to save that and do the same for, actually just do this, and this is going to be your edit form. So basically what the functions of these two are, so for the create form, we're going to have our create form so that we can be able to create a new blog post, and for edit, we edit one specific blog post. So that's essentially what we're going to declare over here. So inside my create function, I'm just going to do a return view, and the view is going to be blogs.create. Supposed to be blogs, not blog. Interesting. Okay, blog. Oh, I had one here already. Interesting. Maybe I was doing some tests here. Okay, so blogs dot create. That's for this one, and then that's for showing the form for creating a new resource. Now for our blogs dot edit, this is for showing the form for editing the specified resource, and I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do what am I supposed to do? Return view. The view is called blogs.edit, like so. All right, so we're going to have that very well said and done. Now we're going to come back over here and test it out. Of course, we don't have the we already have like this is our main blog post. If we want to go to create, we can go to create, but we have to log in, of course, because the middleware is for authentication. And you can see we have our create form, and we also have our edit form. So we're going to go to edit, and you can see it's not found because for some reason we have to edit, maybe edit one perhaps something. But the thing is, it's not found because we don't have anything in our blog post. So I think we have to do one/edit. Not found. Interesting. So why is that the case? Well, we can see over here it's going to show the form for editing the specified resource. And well, let's just say we want to return this ID maybe, so we can see if this function actually works. Let's try that out. Let's try. Interesting. So let's just check out our routes. So I'm going to do PHP artisan route list, and it's gonna give me this entire thing. So I can see I have to put a slash edit right after whichever number is supposed to be here. Crazy, crazy. The crazy thing is I actually can't seem to find out why this is not working. Maybe it's because we don't actually have a blog post. But I mean, that's pretty much how it's supposed to be. If I did one edit, it's not going to show anything. All the same, we can just continue with this create form, and we can continue with the update as well. This update is also another function, and then also this destroy is another function. All right, so let's cut right to the chase. This is the most important function that we're going to be dealing with within here for good, because once we create whatever functions are supposed to be happening over here, then we will come to a close on how this is supposed to be carried out. And with the design that we have, let's actually open our database migrations blogs table to the right. So I'm going to open it to the side, and you can see we have a user title, a title, an image, user ID, title, image, category, and content. Now, these are really, really, really good. There's something that's very interesting over here. Can we just take a look at something called the request? This particular function over here. So how about we do this? The request. Well, how do I even explain this? What a request is? Well, okay, let's draw it out on, like, say maybe something like whiteboard maybe. So I'm going to clear this canvas, and I'm just going to start doing something over here. So let's take this for example. This is our browser, and over here we have our search bar of whatever resource that we have. So whatever text that we're going to be writing inside here will be our URL or URI. So whatever we're typing inside here and pressing enter on is our URI. Essentially, if we type it in so that we can receive a response from the browser itself, like the way we are actually typing it inside here, that is called a GET request. So we are doing a GET request to our URI in order to receive whatever function whatever data that we're supposed to receive from the browser to come back. Maybe it's an image that is supposed to be coming in that's of JPEG or JPG or something like that. And then together with it, we have some text, a line of content over here, some long text maybe. All right, that's essentially how we talk about a GET request. All right, so let's say, for example, now we have another browser over here. Let me just scroll to the right. We have another browser over here that has already loaded up data. And we have the data being a form that we're supposed to fill in. So this is supposed to be our submit button. And these other ones are requesting for our name or email. This is requesting for username. and it says requesting for a password. So let's say give this perspective. Yeah, this is our browser. We've already loaded up this page. It's already asking for this form, asking us to input our email, our username, and our password. So once we input that and hit submit, once we hit the submit, it's going to push it to a certain URI. It's going to push it out to a URI and take along with it some data. So that request that we're going to be we're going to be pushing out, that actually is a request, and the request is called a post request. So we're just essentially just doing a post request. So for those guys who already have gotten to this point where they want to learn Laravel, you already know the difference between a get and a post request. A get request, we want to receive data. A post request, we're pushing data. So this data that we are pushing to wherever it's supposed to be pushed, it's called a request. And that request is what is being held inside this variable right here. So this function store takes in a post request and puts it inside this variable right here with various properties coming in from a form. So let's say the form has properties of name. That form is actually going to use the properties of name to describe whatever is inside the object that is within the request. So say for example, if we want to retrieve a user's title, the title that has been set by the user on the other side, then we just go and set request, and then since the name of that input is going to be title, then we just go and look for title, and that's pretty much it. Now in order for us to take that post request and validate it, we're just going to come in here and do this validate. So what are we validating? We are validating our request. What options are there? Well, we have to take in each and every single piece of this object and make sure that it's either required and it is either like having some certain sort of functionalities within it. So let's take, for example, we have our title. Yeah, we have our title, and the title is supposed to be required. I mean, you can't put a blog post when it's not. There, we can't put up a blog post if we don't have a title that describes the blog post itself. We also need an image. Now this image, we can set it to have required, just for beautification. Now another thing that you can actually do is when you put this stroke like that, the straight line in between that, which is right above the shift button, so it's like the backslash, and then you press shift on that backslash. Basically, if this is the backslash, then you press shift on that backslash and it will give you that if you're using the United States keyboard. So the required, we have other options to add on to this. We can even specify what image or what style of image we want. So we want to set that as mimes. So what is mimes? What is a mime type? Well, let's Google that. So what is a mime? So mime type, maybe. Sorry, mime type. So what is a mime type? Well, media type, that's exactly what it is. Mime types, IANA types. A media type, also known as a multi-purpose internet mail extension. You get that? Multi-purpose internet mail extension, or MIME, is a standard that indicates the nature and format of a document. So we're actually describing inside here the nature of our document using this specific value called mimes. So inside mimes, actually let me just clear this and just get the mimes like that. So inside Mimes, we're actually defining the extensions that we require for our images. So over here, I don't want to use JPG or PNG. I want to use JPG or JPEG because those ones are for small file sizes. Okay, so now we're done with that. Also, we need a maximum size for our image. Maybe we say maximum, maybe. You can say maximum, and the maximum will be, say, 3000 kilobytes. That means that we're only going to have 3000, maybe, let's not use 3000 kilobytes. Let's use 3, what's 3 MB? It's 1024 times 3, which is 30 what? 30 what? Let me use my calculator right here. 24, 48, 72. So 3072 maybe. Let's say 3 times 10, 24. That's 3072. So 3072 kilobytes. That's maximum. We can also set a minimum width and minimum height maybe. So we could say min, say height maybe. There's so many things you can set with this. Let's just keep it at this. I can't have like all of them set up in my mind. I can't remember all of them. We can set minimum height, minimum width, aspect ratios and stuff like that if we wanted to. Okay, so what else accepted? We can have our category as well. Now our category is going to be a selection, so even that should be required. And then the next thing is our content. So content, which is also going to be required. So if the content is required, we can also have something to be like words, but we can also do maximum number of words. Maybe we can say it's supposed to be a string, or we could say it's supposed to be alphanumeric, alpha dash, all those things. Well, we just want it to be required so that we can actually have it carry even HTML if it can, and then we just display the HTML dynamically on the blade template that we're going to be using. Well, that's pretty much it for our image validation. Now, after validating our request, we have to store whatever we have validated into the database. And the database is going to it's going to be represented by our blogs model over here. So we can import that, and then we can say we're starting out a new blog, right? We're starting out a new blog post. All right, so this new blog post, it's going to be held inside this variable called blog. Now, before we carry on further, can we store a file inside our database? I don't think we can unless we convert it to base64 string. So before we do anything like that, all we have to do really is initiate now our blog and then now enable things to happen. Well, we have our blog name, blog title, sorry. We have our blog title being equal to now our request title, right? Great. So we'll do the same for our image, category, and content, and even our user ID. So for title, for category, and then we'll do that. Essentially, if you don't know how to do that, I'll just be double clicking on that so you can highlight this one title. I'm going to press Ctrl D so you can highlight the next one, and then I'm just going to type in content. Now for image, we're not going to store the image like that because inside our table we've done it so that we are storing a string of the image. meaning we're going to store the file name of this image. So essentially what the variable I'm going to use over here is going to be called image name. And I've hanged. So that's essentially the file that's essentially the variable I'm going to be storing inside our database. And then last but not least, we also have the user ID. So I'm going to take a user ID, and it's going to be equal to, well, you probably didn't guess it, auth, which is a function that gets the available authentication instance. I'm going to grab the user, which is a function that grabs the user's details. So you can see that, get the currently authenticated user, and take his ID. That's exactly what we're going to do, and put it inside user ID, so that we have a complete relationship between the blog and the user that's posting the blog. So I hope that is clear. Now, what are we going to do about this thing called image name? Well, first things first, we want to put this thing called image, which is essentially the file coming in from the request. So we're going to take in the request, and then we're going to look for a file. So what does this function file do? So it retrieves a file from the request, but you can see this key is null, meaning that whatever file that has been posted over here has to have a key, and the key is image. So that's essentially the name that has been put inside that input of type file. Now that we've initiated that, what if there's no image that has been put through? Well, we've asked that question already. What if there's no image that has been pushed through? So if is set image, we have to have an if and an else statement. Okay, so now inside our if statement, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to take this image. Oh no, actually no. We're going to take the request and take the title, and we're going to slug it. So I'm going to call a function outside it called slug, and it's supposed to come from a package called str. So str slug. Now I'm going to import that package because sometimes it never gives me that automatic function of importing that package. So I'm going to say use str. It's going to give me some options. Remember this very carefully, people. The option that you should be going for in terms of slugging this is illuminate support str. So I'm going to press that and then close it to a semicolon, then come back here, and then I'm going to close that off. Now, why am I just slugging this and not putting it inside a variable? Well, I should be putting it inside a variable. A variable should be title, which is equal to str slug request title. Great. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a date. And I'm going to call in a package that usually extracts the current timestamp and puts it into a date string. So I'm just going to call carbon. And you guessed why it's called carbon, like carbon dating. So carbon, and then I'm going to call a function inside carbon, and it's called now. So what does now do? Now gets a carbon instance from the current date and time. Now, what I want to do from this point, I want to call a function on this current date and time carbon, and it's called toDate string. So this is what it essentially does. It formats the instance as a date. Great. Then the next thing we want to do is get the extension of the image. So there's a function that has been used over the years called get client original extension, which I'm going to use on this image file, which is get client original extension, like so. So that's essentially how you can call this function on files so that you can get the actual extension from the file, which is great. Now, what's next? Well, essentially we have the title, we have the date, we have the extension. All we just need to do is combine it into a full-on image name. So I'm going to call this variable image name, which is equal to, we're going to concatenate the title. Yeah, so the title that we've created, we're going to concatenate it with the date. So I'm going to do a dot for concatenation. I'm going to put a hyphen in between those two. I'm going to concatenate it together with the date. Then again, I'm going to concatenate this. Okay, before I do that, it's supposed to be a variable. I'm going to concatenate this with a full stop, because between the name and the extension there has to be a full stop defining that this is the extension. And then I'm going to come here and concatenate it again and put the extension. Right. So some of you might be asking, why am I doing all of this? Well, the answer is really simple. We can't store an image file inside our database because we've declared our image file to be our database. So what I essentially am going to do is I'm going to store the image name within this image string, the image name within the image part or the image column of our table. And all the same, I'm going to take this image and store it within our public images area. And I know some of you might be asking, Steve, we don't have our images area within public. I'll get to that. All right, so let's go on. So once we've created our image name, what is going to happen to the image file itself? Well, I'm going to come in here and take the image. I'm going to move it. And I'm going to move it to a directory called images/blogs. Now, here's the thing. Whenever we type in our directory, it always goes and checks the public folder. So it's going to check the public folder for our images/blogs. And if it doesn't find it, then too bad. But we can eradicate that because this is PHP after all. So I'm going to cut this and put an if statement over here. So if we don't find our file existing, the file that is called images/blogs, then I'm going to command you to make that directory. So we are going to make directory. That directory is called images/blogs, like so. Now note, this and this have to match, otherwise it's going to be an infinite cycle of going into this if statement. All the same, there's not going to be an else statement because it's going to look for this first. It's going to run this if statement first. If this returns false, then it continues with the rest. If it returns true, it runs this function and then continues. So no else statement is required, and I can just paste this down. Now, what if we do not have an image file within here? What happens? Well, we just come in here and declare the image name to be default.jpg. That's it. As simple as that. So I hope I've used layman terms to actually explain what's going on over here, and I really hope people understand what's going on. So now we have all our variables declared: the title, the category, the content, the image name, and my user ID. All you just need to do is call save. That's it. So now you've discovered that this is actually just not so hard in terms of, if you've learned PHP, then you know how to maneuver through using logic to just represent everything. All you just really need to know is using eloquent in this particular instance right here, and using validate as a function to validate your request. So that is it for our function over here. And all we just need to do, because we're using a resource, we're just going to do a return. And what are we going to return? We're going to return a redirect. So this redirect, I'm going to redirect it back to my home page. And I'm going to redirect it back to my home page with a success message. So the success message is going to be like so. So this is essentially the variable that's going to be linked up within our view, and the message that is going to be held within that variable, that particular variable, is you have successfully created your blog post. Now check this out. Okay, so check this out. If I have done this, every time I create a new blog post, it's going to redirect me to the home page with a success message that I have successfully created my blog post, and with whatever functionalities that I want to carry out, I can carry them out, like say display this message in like say a toast or something like that. I can do that whenever I want. Another method I would use, instead of doing this redirect to a certain post, I could say redirect and then I call this function back, so that I can redirect one step behind where I was from, and then with this success message I display that toast. Sound good? Let's move on to the next function. Well, show ID basically means, well, we're going to just show the blog post or display the specified resource. So in terms of blog posts, maybe I'm going to come in here and create a file over here called posts or post.blade.php. And inside there, all I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to first of all say this blog is equal to blog. Now that's the model that we're calling here, and then we're just going to call find. Find is a function that usually looks into the database and looks for that specified resource, and then we're going to tag it with the ID number, so that this is the key that it's going to use to find that blog post. And then I'm going to return view. The view I'm returning is called blogs.post, and now I'm going to return it with with the variable blog. So I'm going to call it blog. Since it's just one object, then it will be just fine to put it there. And then the value that's going to be input within this variable over here is the value that is being contained within this variable right here. And I hope that's not confusing at all, because that is one of the simplest statements I've made so far. So if you guys have any questions so far regarding whatever we're doing here, feel free to post it in the comments, and I will be able to respond to you in a successive video before we move on to the next lecture. Alright, so I know you guys can hear the birds outside. They're pretty much singing. Anyway, so we're going to come in here into the edit function. This one in essence will do the same thing that we're doing here, except it's going to show the form. So the essence of this is it's going to display the same form as the create, except it's going to post to the update request, the update function, and it's going to have our data from before, like the data of the post, in the slots of that particular form. So I'm going to do the blog find ID, and then all I'm just going to change over here is this edit button, this edit view. And then inside the update, I'm just going to copy every single thing that is within this function over here, and I'm just going to change a few things right now. So I'm going to paste this in the update function. It's going to validate it. It's going to do all those things. And the last thing that it's going to do, well, is come in here and take out this. First of all, it's going to be new blog. It's going to be blog find, and it's going to be ID, like that. So essentially that's everything, and then you can say you have successfully edited your blog post, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Wow, so we've covered a lot of code, to be honest. We've covered a lot of code. So now what do we do? Well, essentially we're just going to come back here into the public function destroy, and then we're going to do a few things over here. So first things first, I'm going to initialize a blog variable, and I'm going to call it blog find ID. Great. So the first thing I'm going to do is I first want to delete the image that's there. So I'm going to do unlink. So the file name is supposed to be inside images slash blogs, maybe, yeah, and then slash. Now the slash that I'm going to be using over here is going to be now concatenated with this blog that I found, right? And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for the image name, which is inside image, like that. Now once that is done, I don't need to even put in a resource context or whatever. This is essentially the file name, where like the directory name of the file. Now the next thing I want to do after deleting that image, I want to delete this blog post from the database. So I'm going to just do blog, and I'm going to call the delete function, and that's it. And after that I'm going to return a redirect back to where I was sent from. So maybe it's going to refresh the same page, and then I can say you have successfully deleted the blog post. So essentially we finished what we need to do with controllers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about controllers so far, then I think just hit me up personally, and I will, try and gauge your understanding for this particular concept of controllers. How it works is, well, we're going to actually see how it works with the UI that we're going to be using very soon. We'll probably even clone whatever forms that we have within our register forms or our login forms, and we're just going to go ham with that. And then I'm going to, take you through it slowly and surely so that you don't fall behind. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Tech Chess. I hope you guys have learned a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.